Hello and welcome to the Second Tier Podcast. I'm Ryan Dilks and I'm joined by the Adam Eder to my Josh Sargent. It's Justin Peach.
Good day to you, Ryan.
Justin, how the bloody hell are we doing?
I'm fantastic. I am absolutely fantastic. I could not be even better because guess what, Ryan? This is the last episode that goes out before the end of the international break, before the end of another pointless international break, which means we can start to get excited for some previews. Yes, we've got a few days to go, but you know the excitement's starting to brew again for the upcoming week of football.
I was going to say we have got Thursday's episode coming out as well. But you are absolutely right. There's too many international breaks. I've said it before and I'll say it again. It's something that I seem to moan about every time we do an episode during international break, but there simply is too many. I think Wales had a friendly against Gibraltar, didn't they, a few days ago? And it was just completely pointless. What are Wales getting out of a friendly against Gibraltar?
Nothing. Apart from, well, they played at Wrexham, which was a bit of a nice return back to the racecourse, but I don't think anyone, well, apart from Wrexham fans maybe, and maybe some Wales fans, being that fussed about going back there. But, I mean, if it was away at Gibraltar, it's a nice place to go for a bit of a destination. I feel like these things are only useful if they're nice destinations that you can go to for an away trip. That's a bit of a jolly as well. Otherwise, they are pointless for every other viewer. They're pointless.
Did you just call it Gibraltar?
Yeah, I did. I was so uncertain in myself. I lost complete confidence in whether it was Gibraltar or Gibraltar. So I went with both.
My Lord, what a start. Have you ever been to Gibraltar, Justin?
No, I haven't. I don't know if I want to though, because it's basically it's part of the UK, isn't it? So is it really holiday, or is it just like going to Skegness, but it's closer to Africa?
No, it's not. Africa. It's not. To be fair, it's a bit of a strange place. I have been, and I can't really describe it. It's like Spain, and pretty much is Spain, but it's obviously British territory. Mm-hmm. And essentially, the main thing is it's just a big rock, and it's kind of like its own big town, just with border control at the entrance. It's a bit of a nightmare getting in and out, but yeah, it's just a bit weird to describe. There's loads of monkeys on the mountain.
Yeah, I know that. That's an interesting one because you don't get that anywhere on mainland UK, do you? Unless you go to a safari park, which it's not quite the same experience, I imagine. But yeah, no, I've never been. I don't think I ever will, to be honest with you, just because it's part of the UK. It doesn't really feel like a holiday. It just feels like you're going on a staycation, but you've got to take a 3-hour flight.
It's not Cornwall, but in Spain. It's not that at all. And it is quite interesting that you can see literally Africa from the top of the rock in Gibraltar. That's quite cool. Apart from that, it's just a bit weird that they have a football team, to be quite honest.
Danny Higginbottom was capped for Gibraltar.
They went on a huge spell, didn't they, when they first started out, where they were getting loads of like League Two and non-league players to sign up to play for Gibraltar, which I think would be a great idea. If you're a League Two player who's got no chance of playing international football, then you may as well sign up for Gibraltar and you end up playing games against some of the best players in the world.
Yeah, I wonder what makes you qualify. Because can we technically qualify?
Well, that's the thing. I don't know how it all works. I'd love to do an episode on this, just to actually have a deep dive into it. But because Gibraltar is so small, I don't know how you have any kind of ascendancy from there, or descendancy rather.
Yeah, no, it's a good point.
I'm just looking now if there's anyone I recognise who plays for them, but there's a lad from Wickham apparently, TJ DeBar. I've never heard of him. But yeah, there was Higginbottom, wasn't there? I think Scott Wiseman.
Yes. Yeah.
He rings a bell.
He did.
I'm apart from that, it looks like they've kind of drifted away from the whole getting League Two players in kind of thing, which is a bit of a shame because that always seemed like a good bit of fun. Speaking of a bit of fun, that's what we're doing on the podcast today. Welcome to the number one championship podcast, the second tier. Thank you for joining us wherever you are. Yes, it is still very much an international break and we need to talk about something. So this is what we're talking about. On Thursday, I tasked Justin with picking a team of his favourite players and manager currently in the championship. Not his team of the season so far, not a team of the best players in his view, just the players he likes the most. The twist was he could only pick one player from each team. That episode came out on Thursday. Now it's my turn. So here's my dream team of championship players. I've gone down a bit of a different route to you, Justin. My team is mainly made up of young players who I rate very highly, whereas yours was a bit of a mishmash.
Bit of a mishmash. Mine was a love letter to the championship. Yours is just Lone FC.
That is so rude.
Yeah. Well, I'm a lot more critical than you are, and I'm not going to sound harsh. I'm going to be positive in this episode. But yeah, it's just Lone FC. You are Lone FC. You are Watford from 2013.
Yeah, I'll take it. I'd rather have a team full of lone players than picking Tom Ince in my dream 11. With that being said, let's go on to my first player, which is, of course, the goalkeeper. I've gone with Carl Rushworth, who is currently playing for Swansea City. It's only been a small sample size which we've seen of him in the Championship so far, but I've got to say I've been very impressed. Goalkeeper was a big problem position for Swansea last season, wasn't it? They had both Stephen Bender and Andrew Fisher, none of whom looked particularly convincing, and now they've got in this 22-year-old lad who has been great. He's a real safe pair of hands so far and made some really important saves. His underlying data for shot stopping is amongst the best in the division. He's also good with his feet, which is a big factor for me. Another thing I like with Rushworth is he's really worked his way up through the divisions. 4 seasons ago, he was playing in the 7th tier with Woking. Then he was in League 2 with Walsall. Then League 1 with Lincoln last season. And now he's in the Championship with Swansea. And of course, he's from Brighton as well. I find any player from Brighton to be very likeable because they're an excellently run club and just a very likeable club, aren't they? So when you've got someone coming in from there, it's always a good start. And I just think he's a young goalkeeper with a very bright future, possibly even a future England keeper, Justin. I won't rule it out because 22 years old, playing regularly in the Championship is very impressive.
I can't disagree with any of that. Rushworth is a stopper I rate very, very highly. If you look at Jordan Pickford's career path, actually, I don't think Rushworth's had as many loan spells out yet. But Pickford followed a similar path. There was loan spells at Darlington, Preston's. Obviously, he got a chance at Sunderland, and there was quite a few more. There's one at Burton as well. There's quite a few more loan spells here and there. But getting goalkeepers out to clubs and getting them in-game experience in any division, I think, is incredibly valuable for them. And Rushworth showing it at Swansea how important he has been to the team so far. He's got the 4th highest save percentage in the league, which is always a good variable to assess a goalkeeper on in terms of how well they're doing and how many shots they're keeping out. He's faced quite a few as well, and he was very important in that first 5 or 6 games, or he really shone in those first 5 or 6 games when Michael Duff was struggling to get the formula right with Swansea City. And he's really, really showing his quality, ability and potential. Yeah,
definitely. I was between him and going down a completely different route with my favourite goalkeeper. I was going to pick Bartosz Białkowski of Millwall, mainly because I think Bart, as he's popularly known by supporters of clubs he's played for, is, I think, one of the most underrated goalkeepers this division has ever seen, because for so long he was such a good shot stopper. He's getting on a bit now, and he's also not the best with his feet, as we're referring to in Thursday's episode. But as far as shot stopping goes, I'm not sure there's been many better goalkeepers than him over a consistent period of time. But I went with Carl Rushworth, and I'm not going to disagree with myself on that. Let's go to right back, where I've gone with Cody Drameh, currently of Birmingham City. I really rate Cody Drameh. I think really he should be starting each week for Leeds. I'm not sure if that's Leeds' fault or whether he said he wanted to leave, but you look at it now and Leeds have got the likes of Archie Gray and James Shackleton filling in at right back when Luke Ayling's not there. If they committed to Drameh, then he would have been brilliant for them. Whatever the case, Birmingham have got a very talented player for the season. He was great at Cardiff a couple of seasons ago, probably the best right back in the division in the second half of last season with Luton. So much so that Luton tried to sign him in the Premier League over the summer, didn't they? He's had 2 very promising Championship seasons. He's still only 21, which is quite impressive to have 2 seasons under his belt already. He's got the 3rd highest expected assists per 90 for Birmingham, but he's also the only player in the division to have been successful with every tackle he's made this season. He's not been dribbled past yet. Brilliant defensively and going forwards. I just think he's a very exciting player. I also think his name sounds best when it's said by Daniel Mann, the Sky commentator. Just sounds good. Drame! You know what I mean?
Yeah, okay, that's something I never considered, but if that's a big variable as to why you've got him in this division, then I think I can take that, because I think the way a name sounds from a commentator is really important, because sometimes it can land flat.
So it's just when a team is just starting a promising attack, and Daniel Mann goes up another level, and he goes, ball gets played out to the right hand side to Drame.
It's a bit like,
I sound a bit Partridge when I say it like that, but you know,
it's a bit like it takes me back a few years, choosing your player on pro clubs, and you're going through all the commentary names. So obviously you'll pick a commentary name for your pro club player on FIFA back in the day. Yeah, it's a bit like that, and it has the same ring to it. But I do see where you're coming from. But yeah, he's impressed me, Drame. He was very good at Cardiff. Played a significant role under Steve Morrison in getting them comfortably out of relegation trouble in that second half of the season. And he's got real athleticism, which I think is hugely important in a wing back. And he showed that his ability to drive forwards and time his runs well has been really important. And obviously this is his 3rd loan spell in 3 seasons now at Birmingham. And I think he's out of contract at the end of the season, or Birmingham might have an option. Either way, I can't see him being at Leeds as a full-time player next season, whether he's at Birmingham or another club, because he probably needs to leave to really fulfil his potential elsewhere. But he's got real drive, real energy, and he's showing his ability to read the game in terms of coming up against opposition players. So yeah, he's a player that I'm really looking forward to seeing develop, hopefully at a permanent club, whoever it may be, come the end of the season.
My centre-back is not going to be a surprise to anyone, I don't think, who's listened to the podcast for a while. It's Taylor Harwood-Bellis, who's on loan at Southampton. Taylor Harwood-Bellis is a Rolls-Royce defender, but Justin doesn't like me calling him that, so we'll go with a Mercedes defender instead. Harwood-Bellis has had a brilliant year and a bit, despite only being 21. He was one of the best centre-backs in the division last season while getting promoted with Burnley. He also, of course, then captained England under-21s when they won the Euros in the summer. He is a brilliant defender who really should be in the Premier League this season, and it baffles me that no one took a chance on him. But the reason I like Taylor Harwood-Bellis so much is because he's the most unstereotypical English centre-back of all. He's so good with the ball at his feet, very much in the mould of John Stones as a centre-back, isn't he? And probably could play midfield if a manager wanted him to. But I think he's best at centre-half. Ultimately, he's part of a new breed of centre-halves coming through who are excellent with the ball at his feet. And that's really exciting. That's why he fits perfectly into a Russell Martin system at Southampton, and they have been slowly getting more solid at the back since he's come into the team. I've backed THB to be a future England defender, and I'm still standing by that. I think that Southampton have got an obligation to buy if they get promoted. I think he'll be a bargain for whoever he's playing at next season on a permanent basis.
Do you think he will go on to play for England? Because obviously no one took a chance on him in the Premier League. So I'm maybe not raising my eyebrows, but just a little bit concerned. Or do you think certain teams that would have gone for him are maybe priced out of a move and he's had to drop down to get game time?
I think he still will. I think the main reason I think he still will is because of England's obvious weakness at centre-half. There aren't a huge amount of, great centre-halves at England right now. It's a massive problem position for them. I'm not really sure why no one took a chance on him in the summer in the Premier League. It might possibly be down to them possibly thinking he's a bit lightweight as a centre-half. That's the only thing I can maybe think of when it comes to him. But in terms of intelligence, just reading the game and obviously ability with the ball at his feet, I think he's just a top-class defender for someone who's so young.
Yeah, I do rate him very highly. I do rate him very highly. Maybe not as highly as you, but I think the thing that grows a little bit of scepticism in my head about him is maybe he's had an incredible season with Burnley in the Championship last season, and had a very good summer with England under 21s, winning the Euros with them. And no one took a chance on him higher up, in the Premier League or a top flight elsewhere. I think he should be playing in a top division somewhere, not back in the Championship, just to really, really push that development. Because it's just it just raises my eyebrows a little bit, or I'm scowling a little bit with a bit of thought around him.
He's in a great place to develop, though, isn't he? Playing in a Russell Martin system, because Russell Martin's got a good record for developing young players and is playing the kind of brand of football which is specifically suited to a player like Taylor Harwood-Bellis. So he's in a good place. My other centre-back is Ben Wilmot. I continue to regard Ben Wilmot as one of the most underrated players in the Championship. This is a drum I will continue to bang because it doesn't get banged enough. I think he's absolutely mint. He's great defensively, reading the game. He's quick, brave. His passing and carrying the ball forwards is amazing. I thought one weakness for him was his ability in the air, but he's actually amongst the best in the division this season for headers won. So maybe that's not as much of a problem as I thought it was. He's very consistent as well. And he's still only 23. I forget he's still that young, particularly for a centre-half. That's impressive, but he just feels like he's been around for quite a while now. So the fact he's still 23 is quite surprising. If I was a top Championship side, I'd be getting my checkbook out for him. I think whichever way you want to play, he has so much to offer and so much potential in terms of growing room and what he could potentially go for in the future. Unfortunately, he's going to be out for the rest of the year through injury, which is a huge blow for Stoke. But when he's fit, he is some player for me.
Yeah, I think it's taken his move to Stoke to really get him out of his shell in a way, or at least shine a light on him and then allow him to really thrive. I think the managers maybe they've had over Michael O'Neill and Alex Neil maybe aren't the best managers to really get the best out of someone like Ben Wilmot. But I think having Ben Wilmot as a defender in your squad at Stoke, he offers that composure, he offers that ability to be comfortable coming out from the back, and I wouldn't say he's a goal scoring defender, but he's got the ability to hit one, as we saw a couple of times last season as well. So yeah, there are a lot of fragments to his game that have been pieced together by his move to Stoke, and we have seen him grow to be one of the most consistent defenders. I just think because Stoke have been so inconsistent, it's maybe overshadowed his ability as a player, and maybe not a frown upon the defenders at Stoke because of how inconsistent they are, but you just don't rate them as highly as other defenders who are doing better in the league for better teams. So yeah, you're quite right that Ben Wilmot is underrated. I think criminally underrated actually, and I think we should do a lot more to bang that drum to give him some noise basically.
I've been doing it plenty, Justin. I don't know about you. It is an interesting point that you make there. I think if you're a top side in the Championship and you're looking at potential defenders to sign and you're having to fork out, I don't know, 10 million or something like that on a player, are you really going to spend that much money on someone who is playing in a side that's been struggling for the last couple of seasons that he's been playing in? I think in terms of what he does, he's a class defender, but I'd maybe be a bit more sceptical if he's in a team that's struggling. So that's the one thing I'd say, but look, I think he's class. My left back in my Dream 11 is Jacob Greaves. I may have cheated a bit here with Jacob Greaves at left back. He's played loads of games there for Hull, so I'm not bending the rules particularly, but I will admit I much prefer Jacob Greaves as a centre back, mainly because he's a brilliant defender, and I think that's where a team like Hull gets the most out of him. But I wanted to wedge him into my team somehow, so here we are. He is just a quality defender. He's been ever present for Hull as well. Only missed 3 league games since the start of last season. He is just a beast at the back, good with the ball at his feet as well, which is a common theme with my defenders in this team. Only 23 as well. I just like him because I think he's an exciting prospect and has been showing a lot of consistency, which you would not associate necessarily with a lad in his early 20s, and that's very promising. He was getting linked with Roma in the summer as well, so he's clearly catching a couple of eyes from across Europe, and I think at some point he will be at a top club. I'm sure Hull will be hoping that he's playing with them in the Premier League at some point, but if they don't get there sooner rather than later, then they may have to accept that he's, on to pastures new at some point.
If an Italian team is looking at your defenders, or at least scouting your defender, then you've got a good defender on your hands, because Italians just breed defenders. They come out of their mother's wombs as defenders, don't they? It's as simple as that, Italians, that is.
It's a bit graphic, but I get the point.
Yeah, a little bit. You get the point. Apologies for that one, but yeah, it's a good. I see where I was going with it, but yeah, Jacob Greaves is a player who, I again, maybe a bit like Ben Wilmot. You've gone for a maybe an underrated selection of players here.
That's what I like doing. I like showing my scouting prowess and picking out players who I think have loads of potential, and also are somewhat underrated when it comes to looking at the Championship from a neutral perspective.
Oh yeah, you've done an incredible job picking three lone players. Jacob Greaves, very composed. I think that's a key thing here. Weird transfer saga last season with Chris Wilder and Middlesbrough, but he's then signed a new deal with Hull, which I think is a big thing, and I think he's definitely going to cost the team a lot of money should they choose to buy him. And Hull's track record of bringing young players through has been quite exceptional over the last sort of 5, 6, 7 years, and I think that's been overshadowed a little bit as well. But Jacob Greaves, cheating a little bit, as you say, but he has played some games at left back. But it does help to have someone who's got that ability to play there. He's not going to dribble forwards, but at least you've got an outlet on the left flank to pass it out from the back. Because again, that's the key thing here. He's quite a tall guy, looks a bit clumsy, a little bit not as big as Dan Burn, but has that clumsy aura about him. But he's so composed and easy to he reads the game incredibly well. So yeah, Greaves, big fan of his, but again, it's probably a player I've not rated highly enough over the last 2 years.
Justin, let's take a quick break. After that, we'll go into the midfielders in my Dream 11. Welcome back to the Second Tier podcast. I'm going through my Dream 11 of current Championship players who I just really, really like. We've done the defenders and the goalkeeper, so let's go into midfield. And my first midfielder is another one who I harp on about quite a lot. It's Ben Sheaf of Coventry City. This selection won't be a surprise to many long-term listeners because I just rate him extremely highly. Ben Sheaf is one of the best midfielders in the division for me. I think he's absolutely class. He really does everything you want as a defensive midfielder. Wins the ball back. He was one of the top players in the division last season for tackles and interceptions per 90. But when he gets the ball, he's not one of those whose first thought is to pass it to someone who's a bit more creative. He is that guy who can play that pass, and he's not afraid to carry the ball himself, play it forwards. He's your modern day ball-winning midfielder who can just do a bit of everything. And I'm surprised really that there hasn't been more interest in him from the Premier League, because I think he just has so much to offer at that level, and he's a great example of what the modern Coventry City are all about. Sign someone cheap, I think he only cost $1 million, and then developing him into a top player. He's such an important player for Coventry, and they need him back from injury ASAP. And Justin, of course, you're a big fan as well because you picked him in your Dream 11.
Yeah, I'm not going to copy and paste what I said, so I'm going to ask a question. Do you think Coventry will fetch a similar fee for him as they did with Gus Hamer and Victor Gyökeres? Because I value him very, very highly, and that sort of midfielder, I think they're very hard to get hold of. Not like Gus Hamer, because he was a special case, he could do everything. But Ben Sheaf, I think he could fetch a very, very high fee.
I think if I was a Premier League club, I definitely would. But I don't think clubs will necessarily do that. I think they may turn their nose up a bit at the Championship and look to Europe or overseas somewhere and rather sign a player from there. But I think Ben Sheaf is just class. I think if Coventry do get to the Premier League, which I do think they will do in the next couple of years, for me personally, just because I think they're on that kind of trajectory, then I think Ben Sheaf will just show everyone there what he's capable of. And you never know, might not be too far away from the England setup, because there's been a lot of talk recently about how Calvin Phillips keeps getting in the team, but the reason he does that is because he's the only player who kind of offers what he does, if you see what I mean. Ben Sheaf also offers what he does, and if he does play in the Premier League, Wouldn't surprise me, Justin. Although Gareth Southgate has his favourite stunty, I suppose. Let's go to my other midfielder. This is another lad I would not be too surprised to see in the England setup at some point. It's Hayden Hackney of Middlesbrough. It's the Middlesbrough midfielder who is wonderful to watch and has equally wonderful hair. I'm a big Hayden Hackney fan, which is a pretty obvious statement to make because he's in this team. He's a player for the football purist, isn't he? Just so composed with the ball, brilliant at retaining possession, playing progressive passes. He's only turned 21, and to be such an intelligent player at his age, I think is really impressive. He was magnificent last season, despite being so young. Only missed one league game since Michael Carrick has come in, by the way, which is pretty mad for someone, as I say, so young. I'm also glad he's chosen to play for England because Scotland were very keen to nail him down. And when I heard that news, I was like, get off! Get your dirty hands off him! Because I just didn't want to. I thought it would be a massive waste if he played for Scotland because I think he's a top talent who's destined to be playing at a very high level at some point. What do you think, Justin?
Yeah, fuck off Scotland. He's ours. Yeah, he's training with England under 21s this week as well, which is a key indicator of how highly rated he is, because I think there's a bit more of a gateway into the England setup when you've been training with the under 12. Got called up for the under 21s. So that's a testament to his not transition but development over the last 12 months. Because this time last year he was still relatively fresh into the side, wasn't he? And this is coming off the back of a loan spell. Was it at Wimbledon? Or it was a League Two loan spell or a non-league loan spell? I can't remember where it was now, but he wasn't in the setup at Borough. But I think it's a key thing that's impressed me is the fact that he's been entrusted with being the mainstay in midfield for Michael Carrick, and his rewards are now international recognition, which is a big thing for a player. And, again, another product of Middlesbrough's academy, which they deserve a lot of credit for. Yeah,
and I don't think he really played that much for Middlesbrough prior to Michael Carrick coming in. I think he may have played a few games under Chris Wilder, actually, but prior to that, he just has come into the team and not left it. It's quite remarkable, really. The team you were looking for that he played for on loan was Scunthorpe United. There you go, if anyone was wondering. My right winger in my Dream 11. I will say my Dream 11, the formation's 4-2-3-1, if anyone was wondering. My right winger in this team is Morgan Whittaker. It's the second player who features in both of our Dream 11s, Justin. We did speak about him at length in your 11 on Thursday. So maybe we won't spend too much time talking about him, but he's such an exciting talent, and for me is the face of this Plymouth side, which I find really likeable in itself, because Plymouth are a football club which operate on a shoestring budget in championship terms, but are exceptionally well run. The recruitment is brilliant, and arguably the best example of that is Morgan Whittaker. Just such a talented player. Since the start of last season, he's averaging a goal or an assist every 115 minutes in a Plymouth shirt, which is a pretty remarkable record for someone who's only 22. He's so direct and exciting. They got him for £1 million. It still bears repeating that. I mean, we've said it so much over the past few weeks, but it bears repeating every single time because it's just outrageous that they got him for that price. So a phenomenally talented player who's still so young. For me, one of the top young talents in the Championship, and he's got a lovely smile as well, and that goes a long way with me.
Yeah, I'm not going to say anything that I've already said, a bit like Ben Sheaf. I'm going to say that he's flying the flag for us beanpoles as well, because he's so elegant and effortless on the ball that if I ever tried to do that, I would just look like a baby horse who's just been birthed. Do you know what I mean? I can't do what he can do, but the fact that he's so tall, I would say that I'm long and thin and 6 foot. Yeah, 6 foot heading into the 6'1" category. So I think that hits the criteria for being a beanpole. Maybe not as much of a beanpole. Maybe I'm early on beanpole. I'm at the very foundation of a beanpole before it gets to be massive.
I literally have no idea what you're talking about.
Because you're short, you wouldn't know. I am doing. I'm trying to. You interrupted me by bringing me into this, Ryan. I'm just trying to say that the fact that he's so tall and elegant with the ball at his feet, I think is a very difficult thing to do. A very, very difficult thing to do. He runs through defenders with grace, and again, being so tall, it's just not an easy thing to do. But if anyone wants to find out what I actually think about Morgan Whittaker with seriousness, then listen to Thursday's episode.
Classing yourself as a beanpole is a massive exaggeration.
Shut up, short stuff. Come on.
My number 10 in my Dream 11 is Joel Pirro of Leeds United. Pirro is just a bagsman. He's scored 46 goals since the start of the 2021-22 season. I believe that is the most in the Championship in that time, and he's just a natural finisher. In his first season at Swansea, he scored 22 goals from an XG of 12.1, which is insane, being that clinical over a season. It's evened out more last season, but I fancy him to score an absolute shed load this season at Leeds. His teammate Jadon Anthony has come up for a nickname. Justin, have you seen this?
No, I haven't.
Goal Pirro.
Well, that's simple, really obvious.
It's simple but clever. I can't believe it's taken us this long to think of it ourselves. But he's just a brilliant forward, isn't he? I know some Leeds fans have complained about him playing a bit deeper in this number 10 role. I think his best position is whichever one sees him get the most chances, because the more service he gets, the more goals he's going to score. I'm a big Goal Pirro fan. I find Leeds to be a bit of a likeable side right now, which is possibly a bit of a controversial statement for anyone outside of Leeds. So it was a bit difficult singling out a player from this Leeds team. I was thinking perhaps Archie Gray, but I've seen more of Joel Pirro, so I'll go with the deadly Dutchman as my number 10 in this 11. I think as far as strikers go, he is one of the best in the division.
Yeah, in his first season at Swansea, I described him as a poacher, and I think it was my definition of poacher that was probably a bit skewed. It's the fact that he finds space wherever he is, and he was so clinical. It doesn't matter whether he was on the corner of the 18-yard box, in the 6-yard box, or just outside of the 18-yard box. He found space, had a shot, and scored. It was incredible. But I think that complaint from Leeds fans about him playing deep, don't complain about it, because he needs the freedom to find the space, to find the ball, or the ball finds him, because there's this weird magnetic telepathy between him and the ball. He just knows where it's going to go, or the ball knows where he is. It's a relationship that I don't think any other footballer has in this division, and that's proved by his goals over the last 24 months. He's an incredible finisher, vastly underperformed in the first half of last season with his chances, but picked up again in the second half of the season, and he's got 5 in 8 this season. He's clinical. That's all you need to describe him. He's clinical at finding space, he's clinical at finishing, and that's all you need in a forward.
Yeah, in the number 10 debate, which I think has been quite interesting with Leeds fans, I think what I'd say is you've got this great partnership that's building between him and Jorginho Ruta, where Ruta is playing as the furthest forward player, and then Pirro just behind him. You know, Ruta's the one who is stretching defences, running at them and making things happen, and Pirro is the one who can then make the most of that space by ghosting into the box and then having the ball found by the likes of James, Ruta, Somerville, whoever is playing around him, really. And that's why I think he excels so well in that role, and that's why I'm fully on board with what Daniel Farke's trying to do there. Also, he's a good passer of the ball as well. I don't think that's something that he gets enough credit for, because he's not just a goal scorer, he's someone who can link up play as well. And I think that is the perfect role for him. I've got faith in what Daniel Farke's doing in that circumstance. My left winger in my Dream 11 is Jack Clarke, someone we've spoken about quite a lot recently, but I'm just becoming more and more of a fan of him. I'm going to admit something right now to the group. I was a Jack Clarke sceptic. When he came through at Leeds, I remember watching him thinking, there's a lot of hype around this guy, and I get he's a young lad, but he's not really actually done that much. And then obviously he got that big move to Spurs, which didn't work out, followed by loan spells to QPR and Stoke, where he did very little. And then suddenly he's gone to Sunderland, and ever since then, I've no longer been a sceptic. His rise has been absolutely mind-blowing. He's getting better and better at a frighteningly quick rate. He's gone from a pretty unremarkable League One standard winger to arguably the best player in the Championship over in just over a year. And it's quite staggering, actually. And that's what I love about the guy. Just how he's had these setbacks early on in his career, and he's not let it faze him. And now he's playing tremendously with a huge smile on his face. Last season, he was actually playing at wing-back and was just a chance-creating machine. This season, he's moved further forward and has become a goal-scoring machine also. Something that maybe doesn't get noticed enough is his availability, which is really impressive. Since the start of last season, he's missed one league game. How many outfielders can say that, especially ones who get kicked as much as Jack Clark does? He's just a really likeable player playing in a really likeable Sunderland team.
Yeah, I can't disagree. I think the only reason why I didn't put him in my team is because of my sheer love and adoration for Tom Ince. Just pipped him. He's an exceptional talent, and I completely agree with you that I was also a sceptic. I'd be lying if I said I thought he'd reach this level as well, because even in his loan spell in League One with Sunderland, he was okay. He wasn't spectacular, but last season he took his game to a new level. As you pointed out, he was playing wing back. He was playing, on the left wing. He was being put in positions where he had to fill in under Tony Mowbray, but he still performed to a very, very high level, and that's a testament to his ability and his drive and his want to keep doing what he's very good at, which is getting balls into the box, cutting on his right foot. The man's like Thanos. He's inevitable, isn't he? He's the Iron Robin of the Championship. That accolade is on its way because his ability to just cut inside and shoot and score is there. An incredible footballer, and as you say, playing with a smile on his face in a very, very likeable Sunderland team.
A bit more two-footed than Iron Robin was, I will point that out. Iron Robin was quite a good player, so I don't think it's necessarily a dig that you've had at him there. My striker in my Dream 11, the final player actually, is Jamie Vardy. And the reason I've gone with Jamie Vardy is because he is just a legend of the game in so many ways. It's difficult for me to have a genuine affection for a footballer now that I'm a commentator on the game, especially when the player doesn't play for the team I support. But I love Jamie Vardy, mainly because he is one of the biggest shithouses of all time. He is such a Premier League legend who's accomplished so much in the game, yet he still loves scoring against someone like Bristol City, running the length of the pitch to the opposition fans and celebrating right in their faces. He's living out my dream. There's nothing I would love to do more in football than run up to thousands of people and just gloat. People talk about wanting to score a last-minute winner in an FA Cup final or something like that. I don't want to do that. I just want to run up to fans, one hand cup in the air and then shutting them with the other hand. That's all I want to do. And I mean, there's a compilation on YouTube of Jamie Vardy celebrations, which I could honestly watch all day because it's just phenomenal. Even now, I think people are underestimating how good a player he actually is, though. Yes, he doesn't have the pace he once had, but he's still got the movement and goal-scoring instincts. And I think a great example of that was his goal against Blackburn from a few weeks ago, which was just a masterclass in being a forward. People massively underrate his finishing and movement off the ball, just being in the right place at the right time, because it's so hard to do, but he's got that. He still has so much to offer, and we've started to see that quite recently with Leicester this season. He is a GOAT.
Got two things to bring up there. You've just outed yourself as an incredibly bitter man with the whole.
Have I outed myself, Justin? I think that's been pretty obvious now for weeks. What's your other question?
Probably longer than that. The next one is a bit of a conspiracy theory around Jamie Vardy. I don't think he would be half the player he is if he wasn't as much of a shithouse. I think he thrives on opposition supporters giving him stick. I don't think
he's like Popeye with spinach. Is that what you're saying?
I guess, yeah. Popeye's a weird reference, but
and then he start calling his wife a grass, and then suddenly he's powered up. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's exactly the noise Jamie Vardy makes as soon as fans start chanting.
You think I'm a grassy?
Boom, goal.
Yeah.
Cup of the year.
Anything else you want to add?
No, that's it. Yeah.
Oh, dearie me. And my manager, I don't think this is going to be a surprise to anyone. I think it was the safest bet of the 2 episodes that we've done here, wasn't it? Me picking Kieran McKenna here. It'd be wrong if I picked anyone else, wouldn't it? Of course, manager of Ipswich. The job he's done since the start of last season has been mind-blowingly brilliant. Only 2 teams in the Championship history have had a better start to the season than Ipswich, and this is a newly promoted side we're talking about. They've not spent bagloads of money to get into the position they're in. The squad is actually relatively average, if we're being very honest about it, isn't it, Justin? But Kieran McKenna gets each player playing at their absolute best. Massimo Luongo is a perfect example of that. He was released by Middlesbrough last January, having not made an appearance for them on a 3-month contract. This season he's been one of the standout midfielders in the division so far, and the same goes for plenty of other players in this squad. Each player has taken their game to another level under Kieran McKenna. He plays some beautiful football. They press excellently, but he mixes it up depending on who they're playing. If Ipswich didn't have him in charge, I don't know where they'd be, but it's safe to say they wouldn't be near the top 6. I think I'm not being too controversial when I say that. Maybe even lower in the table. He's just a world-class coach. He's proven to be an excellent manager. He will become a truly elite manager. I'm very confident about that. He's so extremely impressive and is the youngest manager in the league. And I can't remember we saw anything like that the last time. And I imagine loads of people are going to be coming back to me on Twitter with the J beeping meme from the In-Betweeners. They can all fuck off, because Kieran McKenna is going right to the top of the game, and I will very much continue to fanboy on him until he gets all the way to the top.
Are you fanboying, or is it an unhealthy obsession? It comes across a bit like Jed the Stalker from Alan Partridge.
It is a mix of both at this point, I'd say.
I mean, the tattoo on your chest and the shrine you have behind your camera now is all there. So I think people do have some substance to give you stick. But
no, that's completely fine, Justin. What happens is, as I was saying a minute ago, with how Massimo Luongo is just a much better player than he is, every day I worship at my Kieran McKenna kind of thing behind me, and then it makes me feel like I'm going to be a better person for the day as well.
Yeah. You're channeling Kieran McKenna's like team talks and his arm around the shoulder. Oh God! Or if you ever had his arm around your shoulder, you'd lose it. Unreal. Yeah,
the shrine takes me to another level as, a Championship commentator, and I feel like that's purely from Kieran McKenna's brilliance.
Yeah, well, I God forbid he ever leaves the Championship. I don't know what you're going to do if you can't talk about him every week, but I do agree with you. Not to the same unhealthy extent that you clearly love him and need him in your life. But I do rate him very highly as a manager, and he's fully deserving of the praise that he gets on a weekly basis.
Do you think he'll be a truly elite manager at some point?
I don't want to throw that out there because he's still very early on in his career.
Oh, come on, Justin.
But he's on a very good trajectory. Just because we don't see it very often, we just don't see it very often. A manager go to League One, go to Championship, and then into the Premier League, and then all of a sudden he's thrust into this elite level, or he becomes elite. I can't recall many examples of that happening. Brendan Rodgers did it at Swansea, then went to Liverpool, and then he never really became elite. He just went to Celtic and was very good in a one-team league, and then did pretty well at Leicester before wheels came off a little bit. So
he did more than pretty well at Leicester. I think you can justify Brendan Rodgers is probably the only case of a manager starting off in the Championship and then, or in the Football League, whatever, and then going on to becoming an elite manager. I think Brendan Rodgers fits that bill, but I think Kieran McKenna can go even further than that, because I just think he's got so much potential for someone so young.
Let's see if he gets promoted. I think we're 11 games into the Championship. Let's see if he gets promoted.
Then we can start to pass judgment. Justin, it doesn't even matter if he gets promoted. I think he's just on that right path, isn't he?
Well, I think he's on his way. I just don't think he's on the path to becoming it. I disagree with you on this, just because I can't. He's almost 2 years into his managerial career. I can't throw in he's going to be elite just yet, because he's still very, very young. He's still got a long way to go.
But look at what he's done in his career already, Justin. I mean, come on. What more justification?
He's got a club with a high budget promoted from League One. Congratulations. Now go and do it again. Go and do it at the lower budget.
They have literally had the third best start in Championship history for a budget which isn't as big as plenty of other sides in the division. It's very average at this level. And he's the youngest coach in the division. Come on,
it doesn't make you elite, though. It doesn't make you elite. It makes you an incredibly gifted manager. What I'm saying is he's
on the way to being an elite manager.
Yeah, and again, he might be well on his way to doing it, but I just think he's on the right path. We're 11 games into the Championship. He's had a very good start in the league, riding a very good crest of a wave from last season, and his team, they're all promisingly working out, and I think he's an incredibly gifted guy, and I think he will work them out, but I've not seen it yet. I need to see more. That's what I'm saying.
Well, what do you need to see?
A promotion. If they don't get promoted,
he's got promotion under his belt
from the Championship. They need to be in the top flight for me to pass that judgment. By that point, I won't need to because we're a Championship podcast.
Okay, then. Right. If you had to predict one manager right now in the Championship who would, let's say, manage in the Champions League one day, if you had to guess a manager, assuming there is one, who would you say?
Gareth Ainsworth.
I knew you were going to say something. Would you say Kieran McKenna?
I would say Kieran McKenna's got the most likely chance to do it. He was linked with Spurs, wasn't he, in the summer? But Spurs make incredibly daft decisions, and that would have been daft. But I wouldn't rule out Malcolm Carrick either, because again, he's showing a lot of qualities as a coach.
Neither would I, Justin. It just sounds like you're being a bit pessimistic about McKenna's ability.
I'm not being pessimistic. I'm just not there at your level of thought yet. That's all it is.
It sounds like you're nowhere near my level of thought.
Well, you've got a shrine for him, so definitely not.
It sounds like because I'm such a big fan of him, you for some reason think that you can't be a fan of him.
No. I rate him a lot. I just don't think I can coin the term he's going to be elite just yet. That's all. I just don't think
you've got your doubts.
I've got my doubts, yeah, but he's a Championship manager at this point in time, and he's only been a manager for 2 years, so I've quite rightly got my doubts, yeah.
We'll move on. Now it's time for this.
Hi, Simon, Grayson here.
Yes, it's time for Simon Grayson's Hateful 8. So I'm going to ask Justin to name 8 of a certain subject. All he's got to do is name all 8. So, for example, if I would say name Steve Bruce's last 8 clubs, he would say Villa, that's 1 down, and Newcastle, that's another down. But if Justin were to then say Weymouth, he would be losing a life. So all he needs to do is give me all 8 answers without losing all his lives. You've got 3 lives on this one, Justin, because it is a bit tricky. It's all about España. Of course, we've had numerous great Spaniards compete in the Championship over the years. But can you name for me the 8 Spaniards who have had the most appearances in the Championship since its inception in 2004?
Ooh.
Good question, isn't it?
That's a great question. That's a great, because there's been so many though. It's incredibly littered with average players who probably played a lot of games that he's just going to completely forget about. The first one I'm going to throw in is Pablo Cunyago.
That is an unbelievable shout, and it's absolutely correct. 163 appearances, most notably for Ipswich. He is 4th on this list.
That's a tricky one. I'll go Pablo Hernandez next.
Pablo Hernandez is also correct. 151 appearances, all of which were for Leeds. He is 6th on this list. That's 2 down.
I feel like there was a Bruno.
You feel like there's a Bruno? I don't know why you're pulling that face, Justin. It's definitely correct. 186 appearances, all of them for Brighton. What a player as well. He is 3rd on this list. 3 down.
Now, Inigo Calderon he was at Brighton for a while. But I'm just not sure, but I'll throw him in.
Inigo Calderon is an unbelievable shout, but he's not on the list. Unfortunately, he's 6 appearances off being in the top 8, so that's an unlucky one for you, Justin. That's 1 life down. You've got 2 lives left, 5 players remaining.
I can't remember many goal scorers being Spanish in the Championship.
I'll give you a clue. None of them are strikers.
Yeah, I thought so. Apart from Pablo Caniago.
Yeah, I mean, none of the remaining ones.
I can't even think of any goalkeepers who are Spanish. That's bad. Daniel Ayala.
Daniel Ayala is absolutely correct. He's top of this list, 272, the most appearances at Championship level for various different clubs as well. That means you're halfway there, Justin. 2 lives remaining.
Halfway there. I'm trying to think of managers who liked a bit of the Spanish flair coming into their teams, but I can't. So I'm going to go Inigo Idiaquez, my boy.
Oh, what a player! Not on the list, unfortunately. 128 appearances, which means he is 13 appearances off from being on this list. So that's another life down, Justin. You've got 1 life remaining, and you've got 4 players to go.
Sergi Canos is a shout that I want to throw in, but I know he had a long-term knee injury, which takes a season away from him. I'm just going to throw in Sergi Canos.
Sergi Canos is surprisingly second in this list.
Wait, what?
Yeah. When I saw that, it blew my mind. 192 appearances playing for Norwich and more notably Brentford. I'm not sure how he's second on this list. No. It's kind of blown my tits off a bit, to be honest. But he is here, and you've got 3 remaining, Justin. You're looking for 5th, 7th and 8th.
5th, 7th and 8th. I'm trying to think of defenders, maybe a midfielder. But I feel like I've tapped out now. All my Spanish knowledge has just dropped off a cliff because of Simon Grayson hanging around me and staring into my soul. I can't think of any. You
tapping out?
I always want to throw a name in there, even if it's wrong.
Go on.
But I can't. Manel.
Manel is surprisingly not on there. The players you were looking for, this one is quite a big one, Justin. Angel Rangel.
I knew there was a full back I was missing.
Yeah, 157 appearances he made. The other 2 were fairly difficult, to be fair, although still quite big names. Number 7 was Jota, formerly of Birmingham City and Brentford.
Such a highly rated player. I can't recall anything he did.
He was very silky. I did rate Jota
quite
a lot.
Incredible.
The other player you're looking for, currently at Arsenal, David Raya. ...141 appearances he made for Brentford and Blackburn. I think Justin has summed up how he's feeling with that big old side. But there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That's been Simon Grayson's Hateful Eight. And this has been the Second Tier Podcast. This has been I said that was silly, didn't I? This has been...
Podcast.
This has been the Second Tier Podcast. This has been my Dream 11, made up of my favourite players currently in the Championship and a manager as well, which was no surprise to absolutely anyone. We'll be back again on Thursday to preview all the games coming up in the Championship next weekend, so we bloody look forward to seeing you then. As always, if you could give us a 5-star review on whichever podcast platform you are listening to us on, that helps us grow massively as a podcast. Only takes a minute of your time, and we will bloody appreciate it so much if you would take the time to do that. So thank you. This has been the Second Tier Podcast. I've been Brian Dilks.
I've been Justin Peach.
And a big thank you for listening.